At 9:17 a.m. on February 26th, Bill Clinton entered room 2154 of the Rayburn House office building through a side entrance, bypassing the press staging area where 47 journalists had been waiting since 7:30 a.m. He was accompanied by 3 attorneys from Latham and Watkins, 2 private security personnel, and 1 aide carrying a leather briefcase. No public statement. No eye contact with cameras positioned at the main entrance. The strategy was clear. Get in, get questioned, get out. 6 hours and 23 minutes later, at 3:40 p.m., he exited through the same side door. When asked by a reporter who had positioned herself near the service elevator whether he had cooperated fully, Clinton replied only, "I answered every question." Then he was gone. 24 hours later, at 9:34 a.m., on February 27th, Hillary Clinton arrived at the same location. Different legal team attorneys from WilmerHale, the firm that has represented her since 2016. Same strategy. Side entrance, no press availability. Her deposition lasted 5 hours and 47 minutes. When she emerged at 3:21 p.m., she issued a single sentence to the waiting media. Quote, "This is a politically motivated fishing expedition, and the American people see it for what it is." Combined, the Clintons testified for 12 hours and 10 minutes behind closed doors before the House Oversight Committee regarding their connections to Jeffrey Epstein, the financier who died in federal custody in 2019 while awaiting trial on sex trafficking charges. And in those 12 hours, according to sources who reviewed the sealed transcripts, Bill Clinton stated variations of "I don't recall," "I had no idea," and "I saw nothing" a combined 117 times. Hillary Clinton denied ever meeting Epstein, despite White House visitor logs from 1993 to 2000 showing 3 separate visits to the residence. Subscribe to this channel immediately, because what I am about to walk you through is not the political theater you see on mainstream media. This is the exact mechanism of how the system is breaking. This is not accountability reaching the powerful. This is a legal sanitization operation designed to create a permanent shield before the 2026 midterms, allowing the Department of Justice to seal the remaining Epstein files forever under the cover of case closure. Turn on notifications. Set them to all, because the next 48 hours will redefine the markets. Legal defense stocks are moving. Private intelligence firms tied to Epstein's network are repositioning assets. And the final window to extract truth from the most explosive intelligence operation in modern American history is closing. Here is what actually happened in those depositions, because the questions asked and the answers given reveal the end game. Bill Clinton's testimony, according to sources familiar with the session, focused on 4 key areas. First, his flights on Epstein's private jet, the Gulfstream nicknamed Lolita Express by federal investigators. Flight logs obtained by the committee show Clinton flew on the aircraft at least 26 times between 2001 and 2003, including trips to Africa, Asia, and Europe as part of Clinton Foundation humanitarian work. When asked by Representative Nancy Mace, Republican from South Carolina, why he chose to travel on Epstein's plane rather than use Secret Service-approved transportation, Clinton reportedly stated, quote, "Jeffrey offered the plane for foundation work. It was a convenience. I had no knowledge of his personal conduct at that time." Mace followed up. "Were you aware that the plane had been modified with a bed in the rear cabin?" Clinton replied, quote, "I flew in the main cabin. I don't recall the configuration of the rest of the aircraft. Did you ever see minors on the plane?" Clinton stated, quote, "I saw staff. I saw foundation personnel. I don't recall seeing anyone underage." Second area of questioning, Clinton's relationship with Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's longtime associate who is currently serving a 20-year sentence for sex trafficking. Visitor logs show Maxwell attended at least 2 White House events during Clinton's presidency. When asked if he knew Maxwell, Clinton acknowledged meeting her but stated, quote, "I met many people in social settings. I had no awareness of her criminal activities." Third area, Clinton's visits to Epstein's private island, Little St. James in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Flight logs indicate Clinton's plane landed on the island on at least 2 occasions in 2002 and 2003. When asked what occurred during those visits, Clinton stated, quote, I was there for brief refueling stops. I did not stay on the island. I did not participate in any activities there. Fourth area, Clinton's knowledge of Epstein's intelligence connections. Multiple sources, including former Mossad officials and investigative journalists, have alleged that Epstein operated a sexual blackmail network with ties to foreign intelligence services. When asked if he was aware of Epstein's intelligence work, Clinton stated, quote, "I knew him as a financier and philanthropist. I had no knowledge of any intelligence activities." Hit that like button right now if you understand what just happened. In 12 hours of testimony, Bill Clinton created a legal record of denial that will be used to prevent further investigation. The algorithm decides what breaks through. You decide whether this analysis reaches people who need to see it. Hillary Clinton's testimony followed a different strategy. Rather than deny knowledge, she denied contact. According to sources, when asked by Representative Jim Jordan, Republican from Ohio, whether she had ever met Jeffrey Epstein, Hillary Clinton stated unequivocally, quote, "I never met him. I was aware Bill knew him, but I had no personal interaction." Jordan then presented White House visitor logs showing Epstein's name listed for 3 visits to the residence between 1993 and 1995. Hillary Clinton reportedly stated, quote, "The White House hosted thousands of visitors. I did not personally meet everyone who entered the residence." When asked if she was aware of Epstein's relationship with Bill Clinton, she stated, quote, "I knew Bill traveled with him for foundation work. I did not ask questions about his associations." When pressed on whether she ever discussed Epstein with Clinton after his 2008 conviction for soliciting prostitution from a minor, she stated, quote, "I don't recall specific conversations. The pattern is consistent. Deny direct knowledge, minimize contact, claim ignorance of criminal activity, and most critically, create a testimonial record that forecloses future prosecution." Drop a comment right now. Tell me if you think this is accountability or legal cover. I am reading every response because this question determines whether the Epstein files ever see daylight. Here is the systemic architecture that makes this a sanitization operation, not an investigation. The House Oversight Committee has subpoena power. It can compel testimony. It can demand documents, but it cannot indict. That power rests solely with the Department of Justice. And the DOJ, under Attorney General Merrick Garland, has shown zero interest in pursuing Epstein-related prosecutions beyond Ghislaine Maxwell, who was convicted in December 2021. The Epstein client list, the full scope of his intelligence operations, the identities of co-conspirators, all of that information exists in sealed federal files. Those files are not public. They are not subject to Freedom of Information Act requests because they are part of an ongoing investigation. But here is the operational reality. If the investigation is declared closed due to lack of new evidence, those files can be permanently sealed under federal law. 28 U.S.C. Section 2071 allows courts to seal records when disclosure would compromise national security or when the public interest in confidentiality outweighs the public interest in disclosure. If the DOJ determines that the Epstein investigation has reached its conclusion because key witnesses, including the Clintons, have testified and provided no actionable evidence, the case can be officially closed. And once closed, the files can be sealed for 50 years under the Presidential Records Act and related national security statutes. That is the endgame. The Clintons testify, they deny knowledge, the committee finds no smoking gun, the DOJ declares the investigation complete, the files are sealed. And the network that Epstein operated, the politicians, financiers, intelligence officers, and foreign operatives who used his operation, all of them walk away protected by legal closure. Subscribe to this channel right now if you have not already, because what I am about to show you is the timeline that proves this was coordinated. On the 14th of January 2026, the House Oversight Committee issued subpoenas to Bill and Hillary Clinton. Both initially refused to comply, citing executive privilege and spousal immunity. On January 31st, the committee held them in contempt, a rare bipartisan vote of 387 to 48. The contempt resolution triggered a legal fight that lasted 3 weeks. On February 21st, 5 days before Bill Clinton's testimony, the Clintons' legal team reached an agreement with the committee. They would testify voluntarily in exchange for limited scope of questioning, no live cameras, and sealed transcripts for 30 days. That agreement was brokered by White House Counsel Ed Siskel, who has close ties to both the Clintons and the Biden administration. The timing is not coincidental. The 2026 midterm elections are scheduled for November 8th, exactly 254 days from now. If the Epstein investigation remains open through the midterms, it becomes a campaign issue. Republicans use it to attack Democrats. Democrats defend the Clintons. The media coverage is nonstop. But if the investigation is closed by April, the story dies. The files are sealed. And by November, the public has moved on. That is why the depositions happen now. Not because the committee finally extracted cooperation, but because the Clintons' legal team calculated that testifying and denying is safer than continuing to resist and keeping the investigation alive. Here is indicator 1 that tells us whether this leads to prosecutions or closure. Watch the DOJ. If Attorney General Garland makes any statement within the next 15 days about the status of the Epstein investigation, it signals a decision point. If he announces that the investigation is ongoing and additional witnesses will be called, it suggests continued pressure. If he announces that the investigation has concluded its fact-gathering phase, it signals closure. Indicator 2. Watch the Oversight Committee. If Chairman James Comer, Republican from Kentucky, announces additional subpoenas for Epstein associates, flight attendants, or staff members from Little Saint. James, it suggests the committee is pursuing corroboration of the Clintons' testimony. If no further subpoenas are issued, it suggests the committee has accepted the testimony as final. Indicator 3. Watch the civil litigation. Virginia Giuffre, one of Epstein's accusers, has stated publicly that she is prepared to testify against any co-conspirators who exploited her. If her legal team files new motions seeking to depose additional witnesses, it suggests the civil track is continuing. If no new filings occur, it suggests settlements are being negotiated to prevent further disclosure. Indicator 4. Watch the media cycle. If major outlets publish investigative reports challenging the Clintons' testimony using flight logs, photos, or witness statements, it suggests investigative journalism is filling the gap left by federal inaction. If coverage fades within 72 hours, it suggests editorial decisions have been made to move on. Indicator 5. Watch foreign intelligence leaks. If Israeli, British, or French media outlets publish stories about Epstein's intelligence connections, it suggests foreign governments are applying pressure by threatening disclosure. If no foreign leaks occur, it suggests diplomatic agreements are in place to suppress the story internationally. Here are the 2 scenarios. Scenario 1. The sanitization succeeds. Over the next 45 days, the following sequence unfolds. On March 7th, the Oversight Committee releases a summary report stating that Bill and Hillary Clinton testified fully and that no evidence of criminal conduct was found. On March 14th, Attorney General Garland issues a statement confirming that the DOJ has reviewed the testimony and determined that no further action is warranted. On March 21st, a federal judge in the Southern District of New York grants a DOJ motion to seal all remaining Epstein files under national security protocols. On April 3rd, the story drops from front pages. By May, it is relegated to opinion sections. By June, the midterms dominate coverage. By November, Epstein is a footnote. The legal shield is complete. The Clintons have created a testimonial record. The DOJ has closed the case. The files are sealed for 50 years. And the network that Epstein operated, the politicians he compromised, the intelligence services he worked with, all of them are protected. The public never learns the full truth. The system absorbs the scandal and moves on. This is the controlled outcome. Painful for those seeking justice, but manageable for those seeking to preserve institutional credibility. Scenario 2. The sanitization fails. A whistleblower emerges. On March 10th, a former Epstein pilot comes forward with testimony contradicting Bill Clinton's claims. He provides detailed logs showing Clinton spent nights on Little St. James, not brief refueling stops. On March 15th, photos surface showing Hillary Clinton at a 1,995 donor event with Epstein and Maxwell. The photos are authenticated. On March 22nd, a former FBI agent reveals that the Bureau was ordered to halt an investigation into Epstein's intelligence connections in 2008 after intervention from senior DOJ officials. On April 1st, a federal judge rules that the Epstein files cannot be sealed without a public hearing due to First Amendment concerns. The story explodes. Congressional Republicans demand perjury charges. The DOJ is forced to reopen the investigation. The Clintons' legal team files motions to suppress the new evidence. The media cycle intensifies. Foreign governments begin leaking intelligence reports. By June, the scandal has consumed Washington. By November, the midterms become a referendum on Epstein and elite corruption. Democrats lose 47 House seats. The investigation expands, and the network begins to fracture as individuals seek immunity deals. This is the uncontrolled outcome. The truth breaks through, the sanitization fails, and the system cannot contain the fallout. What I know for certain right now, Bill Clinton testified for 6 hours and 23 minutes on February 26th, stating he had no idea about Epstein's crimes. Hillary Clinton testified for 5 hours and 47 minutes on February 27th, claiming she never met Epstein despite visitor logs. The depositions were sealed for 30 days under an agreement brokered by White House Counsel. The Oversight Committee held the Clintons in contempt on January 31st before they agreed to testify. And the DOJ has made no public commitment to further investigation. The official narrative is that accountability is reaching the powerful. The operational reality is that this is a legal sanitization designed to create a shield before the midterms. If the DOJ closes the case within 45 days, the Epstein files will be sealed permanently. If new evidence emerges before closure, the investigation could expand. The next 45 days determine whether the most explosive intelligence scandal in modern history gets buried under the weight of legal process, or whether the truth breaks through despite institutional efforts to contain it. Either way, what happened in those 12 hours behind closed doors was not a search for justice. It was the creation of a legal record designed to prevent justice from ever being fully pursued. Stay with this channel. Turn on notifications when the DOJ makes its next move, when new witnesses emerge, or when the case is officially closed. You will see the analysis here immediately. This is not over. This is the moment the system decides whether elite accountability is real or whether it was always just theater designed to protect those who built the networks we are not allowed to see.